but we're talking about life and death. And I'm going to talk for a bit, and I'd like really this to be an interactive thing. I offered this as a mini workshop at ASD National last year. I put the full recording of that, full video recording of that session up on my YouTube channel. So my website's Dowser.ca. Go into my YouTube, which is Susan Collins Dowser, and just scroll down. There's about 20 YouTube videos. One of them is Life and Death with Dowsing, ASD 2015. And people shared their stories on that. I think I'll speak a little more this time, but people shared their stories. I'd like to acknowledge Ivan Macbeth for the stories he shared, as well as everybody else. But Ivan just got up and poured his heart out.
Excuse me, is that the right, that's the link?
My website?
Video, but to your...
My website is www.dowser.ca.
And the one to the YouTube video?
If you go to my website, you will see on the front page a link to my YouTube channel. If you just want to go straight to YouTube, you can search for Susan Collins Dowser, and you'll find me.
Okay, Susan Collins Dowser.
All there, Susan Collins Dowser. I go by that because there's so many names, so many Susan Collins out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so let's start. Here's a cartoon. The doctor, woman, I'm writing you a prescription. Do you want a longer life with less quality or vice versa? So a lot of us are in this stage right now. We're caring for our elder parents and other people who are, we have a life-threatening thing, sometimes children even. And it's like, oh, shall we prolong the life and have somebody bedridden, in pain, incoherent, just for the sake of the body staying alive, or should we make decisions about quality of life? And the key word here is decisions. Doctors have a heck of a time because they've sworn oaths to keep you alive at any cost. So really, as people, we have to be proactive for ourselves. The problem being that once we get to that edge, we're not coherent. So then we end up having to help our parents make decisions. If we don't have a legal right to make those decisions, nobody knows what to do. Oh my God, and here's Jeannie as well. So I'm talking for a bit, and then Jeannie and you, wherever you want to sit is perfectly fine.
Okay.
I'd like to dedicate this to my mother.
Aww.
And that's on the day of her 100th birthday.
Wow.
And I invite you to douse, is she alive or dead at this point? Even if you think you know the answer, is this person alive or dead? Even if you think you know the answer.
So who, the definition?
Well, that's a good question. Depends on the definition. Is it live or dead? Who gets live?
I got wrong.
Okay, who gets dead? Nobody gets her as being dead. You do. Thank you. Who has worked on my mother before in other workshops? Because I've often used her when I do the medical scanning, the health workshops. I try to use somebody to work on who has every imaginable thing wrong with them, so that when people are saying, well, I think she's got this, I think she's got that, everybody's right, because there's so many things wrong with her. So we would do this kind of medical scanning, and we are not doctors. We cannot prescribe, treat, or diagnose, but we can read the energy of somebody. So we would read the energy of an injury or an illness or a dis-ease or a discomfort, whatever it is. After we did that scanning on her, the whole class would send her appropriate energy, healing energy, whatever it was. And everybody always found her alive until she had one of the surgeries she had a cadaver bone stuck in her leg, which she's still walking on. And at that point, people started finding her dead because they were picking up the energy of her dead leg. So she is alive, and will be 102 at the end of the month. Yeah. And honestly, I'm going to be really blunt here. My father died in 30-some years ago. She's 102. For the past 30 years, she has only wanted to die. So that's like almost a third of her life she's wished for death. And of course, the universe plays the trick on us that what you want, you don't get, right? And we talk about soul's purpose. She really doesn't understand the work that we do. But I have talked about soul's purpose, and she says, I wish I knew what it was, so I could die. So maybe your purpose is to live a long time and show people you can do that. People sometimes ask about the Canadian healthcare system. So she started having massive surgeries at about 96. None of it, massive, hips and knees and all kinds of stuff. She spent a year in a rehab hospital with, every possible care. And none of it costs anything. That they repair people. And she would go to the doctors. The first time she's in Emerge, doctor, let me go. And like, doctor, I'm not keeping you here. So she's always trying to die somehow. And in a way that's activating the healing impulse of the doctors. Doctor, let me die. No, I'm going to save you. One day she had a knee replacement and back surgery on the same day. The same day. They just flipped her over and did the other side. Unbelievable. So.
How recent is the picture?
Well, she was 100 there, so that's 2 years ago. But she looks pretty much the same. Jeannie?
If I can interject,
Yeah.
one of the best things I learned from Ed Skillman, when we're dowsing for missing people, rather than asking if they're dead or alive, you ask if their heart has been beating in the last 20 minutes.
Say, well, let's put that on the tape. I'm going to just come to people.
So when asking whether someone's dead or alive, it can have misleading results. For example, the cadaver bone led to a misleading result. Also, say if this lady believes you're never really dead, you really go on to another life, your spirit or your soul is intact and gone, then you're going to get a misleading answer on dead or alive in dowsing. So we ask if that person, this physical person, has their heart been beating in the last 20 minutes.
That's a really good one. Yes, ma'am.
I work with lost animals, and that's the first question I ask. Is your heart beating right now? Are your feet on the ground? Do you feel your body? So
So that's good. Has the heart beat in the last 20 minutes?
Right.
That's good, because life goes on, as we said earlier. And okay, let's carry on. So she has taught me so much about living and dying over the last 10 years. And when I do have a sign up, if you want to put your name and email address on here, if you've already done it, you don't need to do it again. But I do have an article I've written on life and death. I think we posted it, but I can send you a straight copy with a lot of the stuff that we will be saying. So just if you've already signed my sheet once, you don't have to do it again. But maybe pass it down the big way. So you know who I am. And you know my story, like this, my whole journey, I'm the poster child for Dowsing Actually Works. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. My mission now is how to get people to actually do it. Like, how bad does it have to get before people actually do some of this stuff? I don't know. I've written all the books. I've got the health book coming, which will include some of this life and death business. So have you been asked to heal someone who is near death? Like how many folks, the people, lots of people, right? It's like, oh, my father's in the hospital. Can you fix him? Can you heal him? But it's not necessarily the path. Let them go. If it is the time, it is the time. I'm going to come over to everybody so that goes on the tape. James.
I've been asked to heal people in hospitals, and it doesn't work, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. They don't want to be healed.
They don't want to be healed.
First you have to ask them.
First you have to
I
ask.
didn't ask permission, and I didn't ask him or
Right,
her.
right.
And they said, I just did it, and it didn't take.
It didn't take. So, Karen.
I was going to say, with animals, what we do is we send them all the energy and the light and golden light, and for healing, for whatever they want to do with the energy.
So are you asking permission of the animal?
Well, the companion that's their animal.
So the human. But do you ask the animal itself? Maybe the animal wants to get out too.
Usually we ask, can we communicate with you?
Okay.
But then we surround them with healing light, and it's their choice to do whatever they want to do.
You give
with
the
that.
animal the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a huge thing to give choice. I'm going to get really close to people as we go. So the key concept here, I think, is allow what's happening. Like, we all die. It's inevitable. So if somebody is leaving, dying, a friend of mine, I use Facebook all the time. A friend of mine posted a picture of her husband, and she said, I can't say the name, but she said, "Oh, my husband is going to the homeland." And I thought, "Oh, did he die?" And I actually had to email a friend and say, "Did he die, or has he just gone back to England?" And, in fact, he had just gone back to England for a vacation. But I think we have to use the words. When I wrote the article for the ASD, which is preparing for life and death, the editor, I won't say that person's name either, wanted me to have a very convoluted thing about transitioning to other forms or something. Let's call death, taxes, and the latest taboo, of course, is aliens, which I'm going to work into every conversation. We can talk about aliens too. Or not. Okay. We get the hint, right? When the tool falls out of your hand, it's a sign. Allow what's happening. Difficult circumstances can teach us to be human. Like I always say, this is the planet of choice. It's the party planet, and it's the planet of pain. We feel sensation, which is either pleasurable or not pleasurable, and we make choices in our lives. But the difficulty teaches us to rise to those challenges. And many people say there's a challenge in their life, and then they say, well, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have done these other things. It forces you to dig way deeper to go in. And dowsing can help. I think dowsing can help in every circumstance, to communicate with the animals, the people, the energies, the hospital forms. For me, everything has consciousness, so we can involve the consciousness of the place and ancestors. And be careful what you wish for. Rubbing the Aladdin's lamp, and he says, I want to have enough money to last the rest of my life. Granted, you have 1 week to live. So we have to be so pristine with what we ask for, especially when it's in an end-of-life situation, or any situation. Be really careful what you ask for. So how do you cope with change? First of all, you have to notice it. A lot of us, honestly, and I include myself, we go around pretty much oblivious to what's going on, to things, and especially things that are just uncomfortable. I know for me, growing up, I didn't want to know it. I didn't want to see it. I can't see you. I don't know it's there. I don't want to know anything about it. So we first have to open up and detect what's happening. Like people who have an issue, a symptom, and they'd rather not go to the doctor because they really don't want to know what it is. Or the other thing. Say that.
They don't want to tell you.
The person doesn't want to tell you because they want to protect you, because they're afraid of how you're going to feel. So, but if we can open the discussion more and have a normal conversation. My kids are in their 20s, and I tell them, make your will now. Like, don't wait until you're very old, because then it's horrible when your child says, you should make your will, because I think you're going to die probably soon. So making the will and taking care of all these things is part of it. Did you want to talk about legal stuff or powers of attorney at this point, or? Sure? I'm going to stand beside you and.
Oh, I'm actually just fresh out of the experience for the last maybe, about 8 years, and I'm an only child, and my father always took really good care of me, and we were best friends, and so he was used to that role of caregiving and being more, my father. So there was a gradual process of me having to learn how to dialogue with him to get him to take care of those things, because he never did.
To take care of his own things?
His own things.
Like the will and
like the
stuff.
will. And I read the first book on Susie Orman, and that's the first thing she says in terms of taking care of your finances, is to have a will and have a plan, no matter what age you are, because you don't know.
And powers of attorney as well.
Powers of attorney, all that stuff. And then it's behind you. And so all of us here need to do it for ourselves, but then we also have to, if our parents haven't done it, do it. It's the most amazing experience because you start out with the legal, which is just structure, and what happens is it opens up a dialogue of caring for each other. Because I cared for him and says, Dad, what do you want to do with your stuff? You know, you need to make a decision. And do you want it to go here, go there, go there? And because I don't care, just do what you want to do. And then I would say to him, well, if you do that way and you haven't got a plan, I can't do anything with it. Because legally, it would go into probate.
Oh, interesting.
In California, in the United States, and and it's a big nightmare. Do you want me to have a nightmare, or do you want it to make it easy? You know, you have to do these things, and dialogue, and so it opened up a conversation about his stuff was a symbol of his life and his legacy and what he had this life for. And so we opened up with each other and had amazing conversations. And so we got even closer than what we were. And it was beautiful. I mean, just beautiful, just to take a structure and have conversations. And he got defensive, It wasn't easy.
Why did he get defensive?
Because I'm the daughter,
And you didn't have
I'm
the
the
power?
little girl, and he saw me as that little girl, and he never saw me as competent. So he actually got to see me as a competent woman who runs a Dowser conference and, developed my own business and got educated. And then he looked at me and he says, Karen, you're pretty smart, aren't you? I mean, it was wonderful. And he used to come to the conference, so some of the people on the committee know him. And I found out things about my family, like I came from a family of Dowsers, He had to open up and share with me, and it was just... And so just starting with some little thing like legal...
It's not a little thing, though. It's a big thing.
Yeah, it does. We may think of it as a little thing, but it's huge. And so, so when he, a year and a quarter ago, he passed. And it was hard, but because I had done the work, I was at peace, and so was he. And the transition was easy. It was easy in the sense that in taking care of the memorial, because I knew what he wanted, I had to say, well, what do you want? Do you want a casket, or do you want to be, you want an ash spread? What do you really want? And so he got to tell me what he wanted. It wouldn't have been what I wanted for him, but he wanted it. So I honored that. And so it made the memorial and the distribution of the estate just go really smooth. We developed an irrevocable trust in California, and I know in many states. You got to do an irrevocable trust if you want to have the power to be able to make decisions about their estate.
Is that like an executor? Or?
No, it's different.
Yeah, as opposed to a revocable trust?
Revocable trust puts you in charge of your own estate.
And also the person you pass it to.
Yeah, but you're in charge of it. And, all of us here are of sound mind, so there's no reason to have it irrevocable. But as soon as you see a parent have gaps in things, health-wise or mentally, irrevocable trusts are a better option.
But they have to agree to that. And how
they have to agree to it.
How do you get them to agree?
It's a major conversation. And I had this attorney that spoke what I call senior E's.
Yeah.
And the two of us together would dialogue with Dad and say, you're still in charge, and you love your daughter, you trust her. And so it's a place where you can build up trust with that person.
You can't always get there, though, with parents.
No, I was lucky. A lot of people can't. But you can also use your dowsing to clear it so they hear you.
Yeah.
Your dowsers, you can shift the energy. You can ask for that healing. That's why you were put together as a family on this planet, is so that you can work together as a team. And so by you having that irrevocable trust, if you need to put them into nursing care or anything happens, they can't go after the estate. Right. It preserves the legacy of what that person has built, so that person can actually hand it over to the children, if you've got lots of siblings, it helps to be able to have that person in that irrevocable say, this is how I want it, and nobody can mess with it. That's the way it has to be. So it actually, if you've got lots of siblings, and they all have differences of opinion, there's nothing to do.
So if there's a lawsuit, then it doesn't get eaten up?
You don't have a lawsuit. They can't do it.
They can't do anything?
Unless they break it, legally break it.
But
and they
it
can
takes,
if they have
it takes,
enough money.
it takes a lot to do
It takes
that.
a lot to break it.
Well, a lot of people want to share at this point. Let's just go to Jeannie.
Okay, so I've been in the same camp that she has been. I've been in charge of my dad from 2003, so that's what, 13 years.
And
he
how old is he?
He's 95. We could check if his heart's been beating in the last 20 minutes. He will be 95 on the 6th. I'll be flying out of here the 5th to get to Orlando for his 95th
Is he of
birthday.
sound mind, if we can ask?
No, he has moderate dementia, and many of you know him, Tony Geringer, demanding, controlling his ways, the only way in German, right? Some of you old timers. So she is right. Boy, do we have a gift. As Dowsers, we can do things the ordinary people can't. He can't give up control. So I have everything. I've got the trust, I'm executor, everything. And I have siblings.
You just said he can't give up control.
He can't, so I don't have POA.
You don't have the power of attorney.
And I
Yeah.
really need it.
But you're in succession, yeah.
So, he was a dowser. He's a dowser. We have a gift. I use dowsing words. Dad, don't you think it's most appropriate and in your best interest
We understand.
for these tasks to fall to me at this point? You have to be careful not to use, like she said, senior words, not to use words that say, I'm taking control or you can't do it. You get into those words and they won't give it up.
So what was the word again?
Most appropriate and best, is it, don't you think you're putting them in control, that it's most appropriate and best interest to fill in the blank? In this case,
To give me the power of attorney.
well,
Oh, no, you don't-
I don't say
okay.
that. Now he can't write anymore. Yeah, Nicholas knows my dad. That ain't going to work. So where I'm going in 2 days is to sign the proper paper so I can sign your name on things because you can't write anymore. It's really wording like crazy, but it works.
But you give him a question that he answers yes to.
He answers yes or no, and he's in control of answering the question. She is absolutely right. As Dowsers, we have something other people don't. We can tune in, break any energy, and also what I do is I go from my higher self to his, and if I can't get through the muck of his mind, and ask for his higher self to get through to him on the right thing to do.
What about permissions?
Oh, yeah. I always do may I, can I, should I.
And do you verbalize that to him, or you're going to his energy?
I'm going to the energy because with moderate dementia, there's a problem. So when I go higher self to higher self, when he's really running amok or confused, and ask for help from that level, I see a sudden clearing.
We got to get it on the tape here, so.
Okay, so, and my father has pretty severe dementia at this point, and I kind of wonder how much of him is even still present. How do I ask permission to douse for him when, if I said, Dad, can I douse for you, or Dad, can I pray for you, it would be the same as saying, Dad, do you want pancakes for dinner? You just, okay,
Go into the higher self.
okay, okay.
But my thing is, most people could challenge that in courts because of the date that you.
But this is just the dowsing, and you get the guy to agree, or you get your parent to agree.
Well, yeah, but if someone really wanted to challenge that, they'd say he had already had dementia.
So that you have to do this in the timing while he is still competent.
Oh yeah,
So
I'm sure.
Let's go over here.
I think too, in a lot of these issues, we have to be very cognizant of unintended consequences.
Our unintended consequences.
Because,
Ours.
The universe is everybody's. The person that you're trying to help, or, because you may think that you're trying to help them, but it may have the unintended consequence not to actually be that beneficial or any other unintended
This discussion is mostly with legal papers, though, I think, getting the legal authority to manipulate things. What you're talking about is more the healing, the unintended consequences
Well, not so much, because see, with my father, the unintended consequences of a cardiac event were that he wound up like getting moved out of his house and all that kind of stuff that involved the legal stuff that we didn't foresee, but it was an unintended consequence of, trying to help.
I'm not sure I'm following that. So with Dowsing, we try to help with healing energy, but
Well, the healing energy may not be what was needed at that time.
yeah, so we don't
Because it had
ask,
unintended consequences of,
so we don't ask for healing. We can ask for the most appropriate outcome
Right.
with things.
right.
Karen's going to say something?
I was just going to say something. My sister and her husband never had children, and they're quite well off. We can't get them to have a will or anything. We've been trying for years. Well, I just wanted to warn people that my sister's husband now is extreme Alzheimer's.
And they
it's
have
too
no
late.
will. They have no will.
They have no will. And so they're in a real pickle. So please, don't wait for yourself too long, because those things happen, and legally it's a mess.
So do the courts then appoint an executor, for example?
She's still trying to even get appointed executor for both of them.
So the wife?
Yeah.
So the wife's okay, and the husband
There is severe dementia, severe Alzheimer's.
Did she have power of attorney?
No,
None?
no, and it's too late.
well,
They have to go through another whole procedure.
Then you need doctors and legal and
Oh, my
court and
gosh,
everything.
yes.
Guardianship.
Let me just,
For you and your kids, it's never too late.
okay. Okay, next here.
You may not even want to go there, but this is something that my mother thought through. She knew she had at least mild dementia before she went to the nursing home. But she decided at some, and it was her intuitive judgment as to the right timing to have her home put into a trust. Change the ownership to her children, so that there would be, we could use that money for her care
And that was in a formal trust?
no, it wasn't. I think she may have had. I can't even remember right now. She had she had a will for sure, and I can't remember if it was in the form of a trust. But the bottom line is, and it can be a risk in some families, but depending on how kind the children want to be. But she decided the 4 children now own the house, and so they couldn't take the house away from her. At the nursing home.
Heidi?
You can also put everything in a living trust.
So you put everything in a living
You
trust?
put everything in a living trust, and then and then say who it goes to after that. So if something happens, so everything is, you have control over everything while you're alive. If something happens, then the living trust automatically goes to whoever.
Without probate
Without probate. Without probate. Yeah.
element.
Okay,
So there's
very
no
good.
probate, yeah.
Thank you.
Or taxes.
Or taxes. I did that, well, my mother did that with us when she realized she was going downhill, that she sold her house and sold off all her investments, and then split it up among the children, and we just put it in bank accounts, in investment certificates, and only, we know that's her money, and we left her enough money that she felt comfortable with. And it's, she's going through it. It's costing a lot to have her in the place that she's at. Jeannie was talking earlier about, it was Karen, about discussing with your father. He didn't see you as a competent person. My mother's been the opposite. She calls me her mother. And just like, I'm responsible for everything, and my life force is to keep her alive. And it's been really hard to... but I'm not keeping her alive. But she, she clings to me. She calls me 10 or 15 times a day.
And worries. And one of the conversations that we had, it was one of the conversations Susan and I had several years ago, and I learned this because I somehow took a support group for 6 weeks. Once a week, it was some kind of experiment through the VA at Stanford. And one of the things I got out of that, because I was dealing with caregiving for your loved ones, was they called it therapeutic lies.
Oh, yeah. They're wonderful.
And I love that term because you're not lying because out of any malevolence, you're doing it out of kindness. So instead of saying, Dad, I'm going, well, it was actually my stepmother, and we said, Mom, I'm just going to the store. I'll be back in a little bit. They have no concept of time. She was happy. But if I said to her, I'm going down to the Dowsers conference and I'll be back in 7 days, freak out, you know? I mean, it was horrible. But if you just said a few hours, she was fine. Or then she would say, well, where's Papa? I'd say, well, he went to a union meeting. He'll be back in an hour, even though I knew he was going to be back when the sun went down. And she was fine with that. And I would say that every hour to her, and she was perfectly fine.
Yeah, they're in the moment. Just deal with the moment.
Total moment. So you have to invent stories. And
you can't lie like that?
In nothing. Not him. He's still cognizant of nothing.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, well, we're talking about people who, really. Yeah. And, it's all about loving kindness with yourself, but also with the person that you're with that you love. And a lot of people say, well, I didn't like my, we had shit, so we're not doing this. Sorry. Oops.
It's okay.
But, I had a stepmother who didn't like me. We had a lot of stuff, and it gave me an opportunity to go into respect and appreciate her for what she gave me, and to go into forgiveness. And that was a blessing in itself. And let go of all the stuff we had when I was a kid. So it's, and just being truthful and using the dowsing. And sometimes I'd say, well, geez, should I be truthful with my stepmother? And I'd say, no, do it this way.
Your dowsing will help guide you is what you can say.
Should I do it that way? Yeah. And so I remember one time I had taken her out on an outing, and so I got her in the car, and she just wanted some love, and she looks at me and she says, "Oh, you're such a wonderful person. I wish you were my real daughter."
And how old were you when she came into your life? You were
11.
11.
And it was one of those moments and I looked at her and I says, you know what? I really am. Really? And that was just so, it made me feel really great because, she liked the person who I really am rather than the woman that she thought I was. And that started a whole healing process.
That's amazing, eh? Karen.
I was just going to say, if you're around people with dementia, what I've noticed and you confirmed is in their sane, present life, they may not have held you in regard or whatever, or discounted what you really were. But when they get dementia, all of a sudden this other whole thing comes in and they begin to appreciate you.
Or not, maybe.
Or not, yeah. You could go both ways. You're right. It could go both ways.
Like
flip-flop, yeah. They need you.
With dementia, that I would sit with her, and they sleep a lot, and she would wake up and wonder, and then she'd start telling me about the other side, because when she slept, she would go hang out on the other side, and I knew she was because she'd talk about the dog that she had when she was a child, and the people that had already crossed over. And so when she'd tell me about it, I says, well, it's okay to go there if that's what you really want to do. Oh, no, I'm waiting for you. So, and Papa, so when you're ready, you can come with me. And when she finally got that we weren't coming with her, about...
Right now.
And then I had this most amazing experience with her, is that at the conference I met a man, and we developed a friendship, and he says, "Can I do some dowsing with you?" And I said, sure, because he noticed my energy was just so low. And so he found out that I was being courted by my father, and my father was being courted by my stepmother. And so she was using my energy, Dad's energy, to stay alive. And, because she didn't want to cross over. And I had just had this conversation with her. So he called me and he says, do I have your permission? The universe gives permission. Do I have yours to clear that? And so you'll have more, everybody will have energy to do what they need to do.
So you cut your father off too?
Yeah, everybody got to own their own energy, however they wanted to do it. And what happened was that about 3 days later, I was on my way to San Jose. I live in San Francisco, and San Jose to see my daughter. And I always, whenever I left, I would go by to see Dad to make sure he was okay, and if he needed anything, and make sure he had my cell phone, because I always had to remind him. And nobody home. The house was dark. Oh my God, where is he? Couldn't get in, locked. So we had a neighbor, got on a ladder.
And you didn't have a key to get in your father's place?
Well, what he did is he locked the door from the inside. He had a boat lock because she always wandered, and the lock was rusted shut from the outside. So, so we get a ladder to go up on the deck, and my neighbor friend went in, and he says, your father is really out of it. And my mother was down in the living room, out of it. So he opened the door and says, oh, you better call the paramedics and all of this. So I call Irene up. I say, Irene, let's douse this.
Who are you going to call? Call the Dowsers.
Right. So about every half hour, and Carol up in the registration, she's helping me with dowsing. And then my friend was helping me. And what we discovered was that my dad, for the first time, was in charge of his own energy, and he was so exhausted that all he wanted to do was sleep. He slept for 3 days, and then when he woke up, he goes, oh, he thought it was just a few hours where he'd taken a nap. You mean to say I've been asleep for 3 days? Yes, Dad. And he was totally clear, cognizant, his self, everything about him was just right on.
What about your stepmother?
She died a week later.
Wow. And how did you feel then?
I felt good, I felt really clear, confident that I could handle it all.
But the cords have been taken out of you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they were out of me. And, just as an aftermath, the person who helped me that did this, we're now married.
Oh, yay.
So,
okay, a comment over here.
I was just going to ask if she could explain more about being corded and what...
Oh, psychic cords, where energy is coming out of you into somebody else. To keep them alive, and they take our life force in order to keep themselves alive.
Cord,
like a psychic cord.
And you can douse for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Psychic cords. Yeah.
That resonates with me too, and it really kind of spooked me when a speaker once mentioned that after her mother passed, she was hanging out so tightly to her that it was emotionally choking her. And so she said she needed, in her case, to actually get a very high-level shaman to release her. She couldn't do it herself, and she did this work herself.
You don't need a high-level shaman. We can do it for each other.
Yes, yeah.
And last night at my talk, I talked about compassionate detachment. So I see you have these issues, but they're your issues. Compassionate detachment.
Yeah. Well, another thing I would mention is that. My mother, the facility would wake my mother up, exactly at the time to eat, whether she was sleeping or not, and she'd get really angry sometimes, and because they took her away from wherever she was at. And my mother happened to appear to me a week before she died, not after, but also after, but a week before she died, and she appeared in her middle-aged, wonderful self, but because she wanted me to know she said, that's not me anymore. That's
Isn't that interesting? The mother appears. That's great. To say, that's not me anymore. Did she have dementia?
No, she didn't say that, but it was that look on her face.
Yeah.
I'm looking like $1,000,000.
Look at me.
Yeah.
That's always interesting when you see the obits and you see the old person and the young person. And the young person is always so beautiful and handsome. And
well, the last thing is...
Okay, one last thing.
I told her... I knew that she'd listen very, very hard. You could tell by her face. She was trying to concentrate. When I talked to her about, when you leave, Ma, I said, you know, we never know when we're going to go. I could go before you, for that matter. But whenever you do go, I said, just ask for Archangel Michael and ask it to take his hand and take you to where you want to be, or where it's most beneficial for you at that time, because I don't know where it is. But I didn't want her to hang around me, even though I love her, and because every time I came, the nurses would tell me her condition would improve temporarily.
That's because they're sucking our energy out.
Exactly, and that really resonated.
But in terms of who you suggest they look for, Archangel Michael is a cultural construct. Thank you. It's a cultural construct. So Archangel, that may not mean anything to the person. You wanted to say something?
I think that the permission is very important, that you do give them the permission, that it's okay for them to leave.
Okay, yeah, it's
what's
okay.
best for them.
Yeah.
And and sometimes it's a hard thing for us.
It is. It's okay, Mom, Dad. You can go. I'll be fine. I'm all grown up. I'll be okay. You don't have to look after me anymore. That's how we do soul retrieval, too. And when we feel emotional, we can do an om. So amazing. There's so much to say. We have half.
There's another thing. What happens too, as long as we're on this line, as you die, you can call upon the sky dowsers. They came to me.
But that's your cultural construct.
Right.
You have to. What is the cultural construct of the person dying?
Oh, well, he was totally in tune with that. So
yeah, but it depends.
So for me, that was really helpful. Whatever help you have for yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, I had this ability since I've been a kid. And when people die, they come to me and talk to me, and I give messages to people. So, you know.
And that's okay.
And so when he died, you know, he was just hanging around me, talking to me. And I knew it was him because he had an incredible sense of humor. So I was always getting these funnies from him. And it gave me a really sense of peace because I knew he was happy.
So there is that need sometimes for the dead to get the messages back out. So people like us can help with that. I never go looking for it.
I just want to say, animals, if you're an animal person, will often show you before they cross. They'll give you in a dream or something, so that you may, at some level, be prepared. And they can appear just like people after they're gone many times, and you can call them in. So
why would you call in your deceased pet?
To talk to them, to talk to them, and to make you feel that they're fine.
But you wouldn't do that. I shouldn't say. Would you do that over a long period of time, or just after death?
No, you can do it at any time, but oftentimes people like to know they're on the other side and they're okay.
Yeah.
Just like people.
Yeah,
you want to know that they're okay.
It's good in the period just after death to make sure all the messages are clear and all of that.
You can use them as guides, as teachers.
But if I may, it's not up to us to use them as guides. We invite, I think, is a very important word. But let these little critters go. Like my father, before I started actually doing my work, my father, who died years ago, he hung around me a lot, but I have never called on him. Like, is he there? I don't call him. Like, let them be at peace and move on and do all the rest of it. Speaking of moving on, let's just go through some more slides. This is what happened as well when we did this at National. Like, the hour just goes by too fast and there's so much to say. It's huge, and I think it'd be great to do a conversation like this, every year. So, how to cope with change? First of all, detect it, acknowledge it's going on, and then detach. That's the compassionate detachment. My parent is dying, my child is dying, I am dying. And then you deal with it. So you manage your relations and situations by adjusting the energy and speaking clearly. So adjusting the energy, we do that with dowsing. We bring ourselves into resonance. And as Joachim Whippich said, there's my sigh going in. He's an excellent dowser. He talked about you bring yourself into the resonance of the person you're dealing with. for the period that you're doing that. So if somebody is in dementia or in a Alzheimer's state or at a catatonic state, bring yourself to where they are. When my mother-in-law was dying, she was German, and she was catatonic, and my German isn't very good, but I thought, I will speak to her in German, the language of her childhood, and I tried to think of a time in her life where she was happy, and that was hard to do. But then I remembered her. A lot of us have a lot of pain in our lives, and our elders do, because they have gone through the wars and depressions, terrible times of deprivation. So for me, I found a place where she had been happy, and walking along the dike, going to meet who would be her husband, and it was she would love flowers. So as she was lying there, I stroked her head and whispered into her ear in her language that I could. See much I can say here. So she did die. I'm going to be quite personal here, as we are. So it went on for 10 days, and my husband wished for her death for her sake. So one day I went in and I did all the permissions and did the organization of that. I didn't kill her, but I released things that had to be released. And then he comes home and says, oh, you know what? It would be good if she lived until tomorrow, because there's some legal documents that have to be signed. So it's like, oh, it's too bad we didn't speak clearly about that before, because I had the impression. So I thought she would come to me after her death. We sorted all the legal stuff out. Then my son, who you've met last night, he was 16 at the time, I think, and she loved him very much because he reminded her of her son, my husband. And my son said to me, Oma came to me in a dream last night. She's in a beautiful garden, and I guess that's okay. And I realized she had gone to the place. She was in the place I had helped her get to. And I was thrilled with that. And he saw her in the garden. He said, I guess that's okay. And I said, no, it's up to you now. She needs to move out of the garden and into wherever she's meant to be. So he had to do that for her at 16. And we should teach all our children how to do this. Like, instead of, what was the comment?
Hiding it.
Instead of hiding it. Yeah, we had just speak clearly, it's happening, and let the children. When my father-in-law died, my kids were 2 and 4, and I took them up to the open casket and showed them, and they waved goodbye, right? But then they knew he was gone. They didn't. I asked my daughter, "Do you remember that?" She said, "I don't really understand it. Didn't really know, but it was a completion there. It's like not Opa's sleeping, Opa is."
I showed my toddlers, my dad, and I said, he's not going to, if you want to touch him, you can.
Yeah.
But it's going to feel cold.
It's going to feel cold.
But they just accepted it, and even at the age of...
Yeah, well, they will accept it if they're young.
Yeah.
It's only we make it weird as we go older.
Exactly. They were totally at peace with it.
And I'm going to say something out loud on tape. One of the things I'm happy about with my mother in a care home, I will not have to find her. Like that's maybe I'm not stepping up, but I know she's well cared for, and I'm not going to be the one to find her. Karen.
I'd like a little discussion around the fact that some people feel they have to be present when
the party dies. Yeah.
And there's a whole controversy kind of around whether they even want you there.
Well, sometimes the person sometimes they'll wait for their birthday, or they'll wait for the sibling to fly in, and then they'll die. And then you could stand there forever waiting for, I want to be with you, Mom, I'm here. And then you take a minute off. Ivan Macbeth talks about this story with his mother, that the nurse was intuitive enough to say,
go for coffee.
Yeah, she can't pass while you're here. So you go off for coffee, and then they're done. For whatever reason they don't want to be there.
Adding to that, Carolyn Stillman, her dad was a doctor, and one wonderful thing he taught her that she taught me was many times the person who's dying waits till you go to the bathroom or whatever. Yeah. They want to go. That gives them more permission to go. So no one should ever feel bad that the minute they went to the bathroom, someone passed.
They don't want to
They
upset
wait.
you, right?
Yeah, they wait, and that's okay, and that gives people, that's a wonderful thing to know. Not to beat yourself up because the minute you
Because
left.
you weren't there. I have
They wait.
a friend of mine
It's okay.
is trying to be there for her mother while she dies, but
That'll delay it, sorry.
all right.
So I had a similar situation last year with my mom passing me. We were very close.
Your mom
tight.
passed?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
last year. And we were very connected. Wherever I was in the world, we could talk to each other without phones. But she did not want me there when she passed. So I'd been there all day, and they go, Robin, she doesn't want me here. Let's go home. We drive all the way home, 20 minutes. We get a phone call. She passed. Okay, we're coming back. But that was just her, saying, I want
Yeah.
to go by myself. And
Yeah.
she was happy.
And not,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm sorry your mother passed. Wait a minute, let me get up there.
With that concept too, there are cultural differences too, because I had been caring for a large Armenian gypsy family, and part of and everybody was just like all gathered around the bed of the matriarch, and we didn't really understand it from our cultural perspective, but in their culture, the first person to touch them after they passed inherited their power. So the whole family would not leave the bedside, and that was their cultural thing. I mean, that was their cultural belief.
That's interesting, eh? Some cultures have larger families. Most of us now, I think, our families are spread out. There's only one child that steps up.
Right.
So, and we can't be there. Like, if you're lucky if you've got somebody to shift off with. But it's a cultural thing, we can't prescribe to anybody.
One thing I would like to share is extension. So after,
To share,
after extension, after the person passed away.
Okay.
So I have a friend who dearly loved her mother, and then she didn't know. In her mind, she thought she already let go. Very good Buddhist. Buddhist is very simple about that. Just let go. And she thought she did, but she didn't. Until we had a sound healing session. She just burst and cried for 5 minutes. 3 blocks, you can hear that. Okay. And then what happened was she just realized that. So the sound healer teacher said, you didn't let your mother go. Your mother is still here. If you don't let her go, she cannot go to her place.
Exactly. Say that again.
Oh, she said that, the sound healer teacher said that you gotta let your mother go. Because if you don't let her go, she's gonna wander around here. She cannot leave you.
Exactly.
She wants to go.
That becomes an earthbound spirit.
Oh, thank you.
That's what we call that.
So mother couldn't leave. Mother wants to go, but the daughter innocently saw that she already let go. It's a very interesting situation.
Yeah.
So she said, I didn't know. I've been holding on to it. And so the sound healer teacher said, do you know you've been holding on to her? It's very simple. You dream of her, you thought about her, you just always had a connection with her. And the bounding, you just couldn't let go. And she cried because what the teacher said exactly right.
And how did she let go then?
Oh, the sound went into her heart. And the vibration just basically released that attachment. And of course, with the explanation, she got it. So her awareness plus her subconsciousness all intertwined at that moment due to the vibration of the sound. But everybody has different way to release. So she got to opportunity to release that.
Beautiful.
So she gave me a big hug. She said, thank you for inviting the teacher. Otherwise, I've been holding on my mom probably for now another 10, 20 years.
Or who knows?
Until the day I died, I didn't know.
I think it's great, to have conversations with their...
People put the ashes of their deceased on the mantle.
That's not good.
Or beside the bed.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so that's what I would like to share. That
Thank you.
Make sure you really let go.
And we can determine that with the dowsing too.
Letting go of grief is also very key.
One conversation, ladies and gentlemen, only one conversation at a time. Thank you.
I've learned that it's really critically important to let go of your grief. People grieve for years sometimes over a lost person, and you're holding them back.
Exactly.
The
yeah.
soul will finally tell you. This one mother was furious because her teenage son who died in an accident. It was just, he said, "Mom, I was meant to die," but she was mad at him because he wouldn't communicate with her, and finally she was through exhaustion, which is how often it happens with souls, that you finally give up and surrender, but you wasted a lot of.
The mothers then surrendered, you mean?
No, the person on earth surrendered,
Yeah.
is still alive, to finally letting go of their grief. And then finally her son can come through to her and said, "Mom, it's about time. You've held me back
for years.
You've held me back for years."
Yeah.
So we're not doing them a favor.
No, it's
so
not.
I said, "I'm not going to grieve for my mom when she leaves."
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. We celebrated it. It was wonderful, and we celebrated in a beautiful way.
Yeah. So have the conversations before death. So
no
there's-
matter whether it's a young person or an old person, it's a gift to give up your
To
vision.
mirror image what you said, my friend after the sound healing session, she said she didn't dream of her mom for
Never
a long,
dreamt of her
long
mother
time.
again. Yeah.
And then so she went to where she belonged to.
Excellent.
Finally, yeah.
Excellent. It's fabulous to have the conversation. We have about 15 minutes or so, and you have to leave shortly too. Karen's teaching next. Let's just go on. One last thing. Okay.
Sorry, I'm late. Can you just repeat the part permission? I know permission is the most important thing.
Repeat permission?
About how we ask for permission for...
Well, with our dowsing, we have protocols to do that.
Oh, yeah, that part, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, be pristine. As we're dowsers, we know how to dowse. Go through your normal protocols, but compassionate detachment, the Buddhist way. Let me go through slides, and even if we don't, we won't finish the discussion, obviously, but we...
Our break in between so we can go over if you want.
No, we will finish at the time allotted. We all have things to move on to. This topic will not go away, and we will not finish discussing it now. But over the lunch breaks, and when you go home and with your family and your siblings, the conversation just carries on. Let's speak openly all the time.
One thing before.
Oh, before she goes, Karen's got one more thing.
One more thing. This is just a happy thing. When I knew Mom was going to die, I saw the signs. I came back from Super Bowl, and my dad was freaked out, and I could see that. So I called the family, and I says, Mom is going, and my daughter and her son and her husband and the friends that were around. So my grandson comes over, and he crawls up in bed with her, and he's stroking her.
Wait, is she dead at this point?
No, she's
okay.
You could tell. You know how when people they're really they're still breathing, but it's rattled, And so he goes because we had lots of toys for him to play with at great grandma's house.
How old?
About 3.
3.
And so he gathers all the toys and puts them on the bed and tells Grandma that where she's going, we can take the toys with her. Teddy bears, mostly teddy bears and books and things.
Did you tell him? Did you tell him that she was dying, or he?
Yeah, we told him that Grandma was going to die soon, and he needed to say goodbye to her.
And
he was just totally accepting of it. In fact, more so than we were, and Dad.
Yeah.
And he was just so cool with it, and then he just laid down in the bed and just was with her. And
how sweet.
It was very sweet. So you can always involve children.
Yeah.
They're part of the family.
Yeah.
And he did the same thing, but he was, how old was he? 9 when
your father died.
When my father died, he was 8. He was 8, and but he was more mature. But he drew pictures, all kinds of pictures.
And gave them to your father, or?
He gave them to us instead,
Huh.
And
so art therapy, sound therapy, but the communication somehow.
Communication is really important to make it a family thing. You don't have to hide it from them.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now she's off. So I'll go through the slides so at least you know what some of the topics are. When you can't change it, make peace with the circumstances of people you can't control. For illness, reduce the symptoms and side effects. So that's something we can do with dowsing. We can disconnect the frequency of non-beneficial side effects. So this is, I'll send you the protocol. On the handout sheet there, you'll inevitably get my protocol as well. So step 4 in my protocol, we ask to disconnect any non-beneficial side effects of medications or treatments. Because sometimes you have to go through these terrible radiation or whatever, so disconnect side effects of that, and you can maximize, I think that's the next one, no, you can maximize the beneficial effect. So you're taking a certain drug that's supposed to treat a certain thing, maximize the beneficial effect of that particular drug. Take away the side effects, maximize the benefit. How do you get ready to dose? So always, especially, you know, the hospitals are filled with the dead, right? As are many places, churches and all the rest of it. So, and I don't know if I've said this in this group or not, but with my mother in hospital dying for so many years and so many surgeries, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I'm supposed to be doing the work in the hospitals, and the way they get me in the hospital is to put my mother in there. So I made the deal, don't kill my mother, I'll do the work. So, you know, and so you saw the picture of her. But then we need the psychic protection. There's a lot of things that see us and want to attach to us. Especially in the hospital. Well, especially everywhere we go. There are things that they can see us and then they attach in. So we need to be well protected. So we talk about our shields up. Well, however you're doing that, psychic protection. Surround yourself in light or beneficial energy, whatever your cultural construct is. It's all very personal. Ask for spirit guides and specialists. So you may have your spirit team that you're doing earth energies or water wells or whatever it's doing, but you can ask, and this is step 2 on my protocol, ask for the assistance of a beneficial being in resonance with you and the person who is in distress, who can assist you in gathering the most appropriate information so you can make decisions about care. During that time my mother was in hospital, I would be sitting at her bed a lot of the time, and then I would get up and go into the hall, and wouldn't you know, I would bump into the surgeon, or I would bump into the person I would need to see, because like you can wait there for all day before they show up. But I would meet them in the line at the cafeteria or something. So I could do these speed meetings. So that's partly being in the right place. I ask to be in the right place at the right time so that I can get the information I need to help make decisions about care, for example. Ask for cultural totems. So we've talked about Archangel Michael. We've talked about other things like what is the ethnicity of the person you're dealing with, and go into go into where their space is. I spoke in German to my mother-in-law. So you go to them. What is their cultural totem? What will make them feel peaceful? Well, we don't make them do anything, but what will best provide the circumstances where this person will feel comfortable and have what they need to do what is necessary. The dosing protocol, this you guys know, and I will send you a copy of it. It's in all my books. Who do you include in this? So let's say we're going to set up a dosing matrix, and Jeannie's done a beautiful, part of my inspiration here is Jeannie, who last year did the hospital protocol.
And I have, not with me right now, but my talk tomorrow, not to plug it at 2 o'clock. I will be talking about a lot of things like how to cut the psychic cords and deal with the disincarnates and do a lot we've touched on. But I will also have copies of my hospital protocol there for those who come to that. Yeah. Because she really liked it. It's very inclusive.
It's great. It's great.
It just came to me in a rush a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to share this, which is good.
You do.
So part of when you're doing these protocols, who are you going to include? One would be the patient. One is the observer, which is us, and the family members. Who's observing this? Your friends, the family and friends. The hospital and the medical staff. So, you know, the doctor is the obvious one, but you need the nurses, the anesthetists, other people in the rooms, all the technical stuff, the people sweeping the floor, the people bringing the food, the electricians that are keeping the power on. You know, there's a lot to include the medical staff, the support staff, other patients, roommates, visitors, So, we end up in wards. You got 4 beds in a room, and like there's all this noise. The televisions have the worst EMFs coming out of that. Unbelievable. So lots of things to include. And using the blessing process, all that intense EMF stuff, you can program that. For the MRIs, incredible, but whatever is going on, if the surgeries, make it a beneficial, convert it to beneficial as you can. What are we going to include? That everything is beneficial, appropriate, effective, efficient, and without side effects. And some of this is paraphrasing Jeannie's stuff. And let us develop these protocols the best way we can. What a nice place to die, don't you think? There's a nice couch you can sleep on for the loved one and everything. So the food that's coming in, and it's so often the hospitals are mixing up patients. That's the other thing. The drugs, the wrong foot. With my mom, that's always my example. When they come in through Emerge, sometimes they put an X on the foot where the pulse is. Well, different things, but my mother was supposed to have surgery on her left knee. They go and they put the X, she's got the pulse on the right knee, and I would take my mother as far as I could into these places, and they're prepping her. They see the X on the foot, and it must be the right knee. And it's like, no, it's the other knee. But medications get swapped and food gets swapped. One of the things my mom had with the knee surgery, I guess she was in a body cast down there, but then somebody called for a bone density scan, so the nurse came in and wanted her to bend her knee so that they could do the bone density scan. But that happens all the time, right? All that stuff. So we want, especially if you've got a common name, like my name's fairly common and my mother's name, that they know who you are or who is the patient that is being implants. Another friend of mine, they did an implant, but she was allergic to the steel or the titanium or whatever it was. So you want to have compatibility with implants. The water, the air, the cleaning products. A lot of us are hypersensitive to things, and they come in with various products. So whatever's going on, we can't control what cleaning product they're using, but to transform the energy of that. The electromagnetic frequencies and Wi-Fi. The earth and psychic energies. And if we now set up these blessing programs for the hospitals, we don't even have to wait for our loved ones to get in there, but we can start healing the hospitals and the schools and all the dentists' office and all that. Karen.
I'd also like to suggest multiple intuitive things, but there's a famous astrologer, and you can call him, and if you're going to have surgery or major procedures in a hospital, he will tell you when the planets line up for the best possible days to go in, and it really worked for me. It was incredible. Okay. But I also dowsed, and I got almost the same date.
The astrology is a cultural construct. I would like us all to be able to do this ourselves without calling in some external person. We have the ability to dowse for this.
But people don't know, they don't think about dowsing for the day.
Well, we do.
You're going to have a procedure.
This is the discussion. Let us bring this forward into it. When you go back to your dowsing groups, make this a topic. And there'll be so much to say once you break the ice. Like, how are we going to die? We live well, we die well. Pearl.
Another thought. No one has to be sick to die to leave this.
Nobody has to be sick to die.
And you don't have to go to a hospital to leave.
And you don't have to go to a hospital to leave.
Two of my personal friends have decided when one of my friends was an artist friend of mine. I'd known her for 30, 40 years. And on her 90th birthday, she went to Santa Cruz called her family. She had a daughter and 2 sons. And they celebrated her 90th birthday. And she said goodbye to everyone. And she passed over that night.
Wow.
Without any fanfare.
Without any fanfare.
And another friend of mine was in Redwood City, and she'd had an accident or something. She was in the hospital, and she wanted me to come up to see her, and she was worried they were going to put her in a nursing home in Palo Alto, where I lived. And that was on like a Wednesday, and on Friday they were moving her to the hospital, to the nursing home. And I called the nursing home on Friday, and I said, is Eleanor there? And I forgot her last name. Anyway, she said, no, she didn't arrive. So I called her daughter, and she said, no, she really didn't want to go to the nursing home, and she passed over that night.
Wow.
And there is a book called Many Winters.
Many Winters?
Many Winters.
By, do you know the author?
I don't know, but
Google
it's
it. Many Winters.
It's an Indian name, and Indian philosophy. And when they decide they've finished their work here, they go out to the woods and stay there, go.
And stay there and go.
Walk
into the woods. Walk into the woods. I think the most important thing we might have shared today, you don't have to be sick to die.
Right.
And you don't have to die in a hospital.
Right.
And you can choose to die.
You can choose the day you die, but the other thing is, don't spend all your money so that you have to go on welfare.
That's very important too. We need to think about tomorrow. Live every moment. Thank you. We have 8 minutes. Oh no, what time? 10:15 we end? We have 3 minutes. Let me just throw these slides. 2 minutes. That's all we need. Because ascension is happening right now. Intention, what's the outcome? Do you want to die or live or healing? We ask for the best possible outcome for the subject, the family, the caregivers, those around them. That the subject, caregivers, and observers be aware, curious, excited, accepting, peaceful, happy, comfortable, serene, forgiving. These are words that people have given out to me. For patient care, ask them what they need. Help them develop empathy with the hospital and the staff. Help them develop confidence in themselves and those around them. Get the rest and nutrition before and after. Supportive self-talk. That's for you and for them. Activate the senses or create silence. So this is when the person's in there. You can either, they're going to see people in the corner. They're going to see, Uncle Joe's in the corner. So you say, well, how's Uncle Joe doing? Like, don't say, oh, don't be silly, there's nobody there. Right? So go to where they are. Yeah, proper balance of bacteria. Don't wipe out all the bacteria, because we need proper bacteria for digestion. Bacteria are becoming endangered, so we want the friendly bacteria. Don't kill them all. How to talk to the patient. Even if they're catatonic, talk to them as if they can hear you. I have more stories. I didn't get to tell too many stories, but it's okay. Tell them the good things they've done, because they're sitting there or lying there and they can no longer communicate, but tell them, I know you've done good things, and tell them the good things. I remember when you did this for me, and I know you did that. Acknowledge their life, whatever it's been. Or it's like, I know, I did that in my father-in-law's eulogy. He was a very difficult man. And in the eulogy, I said that, he was an extremely difficult man. But that's what he was. Everybody laughed, because like you don't say, oh, what a sweet, kind, loving person, if that's not the case. Acknowledge their life. Give them a chance to do a life review and talk about what they do differently. So if they're still able to communicate, well, tell me, about your life. What would you rather have done? And things will come up on that. Send love. Have physical contact if possible, so that touching is very nice. Physical touching. Acknowledge they may have perceptions that you don't share. Acknowledge they may have perceptions you don't share. Oh, that's Uncle Joe's in the corner. Yeah, or whatever they're saying. Or whoever they think you are, answer them as if you are that person. Right? Because anyway, preparing for that tough conversation. What do you want out of it, and when do you want it? This is you, basically. This is for all of us. So if you are caring for somebody, what do you want to happen? I want that surgeon to come in here and do this, for example. I want him to come in right now. Or I want my parent to sign that power of attorney, whatever it is. So figure out, what are you trying to accomplish? Like if you're just wallowing in self-pity, and if you're allowing them to wallow in self-pity, there's no benefit in that particularly. But for that tough conversation, and Karen was talking about that, pick a comfortable time and place. So don't wait until they're actually about to die. Like, you know, my mom, for me, what comforts her is where is her furniture going to go? And I used to say, I don't want to talk about that. No, she wants to know where the cabinet's going to go. So I finally learned to say, oh, I will take the cabinet and I'm going to put it in my living room. You know, even if you don't intend to keep that stuff, if it's their treasures, oh yes, I know my children want that. Don't tell them you're just going to throw it in the junk pile.
Giving it away before you get to that point.
If you can get them to give it away, far away.
Well, actually, no, we ourselves should decide.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we need to offload this stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be prepared to start the conversation. Keep it simple. Use language that the person understands. And Karen gave a good example of that. Be honest. Stay calm. Going into emotion doesn't usually help, you know. And do the OM. That's deep breathing. Do belly breathing. When you get to that place where it's like, I don't think I can keep going, you just, you know, we know how to ground ourselves. Listen to what they say. Stay positive, even if you disagree. If you think it's the stupidest idea you've ever heard, say, well, we can certainly consider doing that, you know? What a good idea. What an interesting idea that is.
That's another way to think about it.
Yeah, that's another, you know, I don't just tell them that's wrong. We're not doing that. You're going to move to that nursing home whether you like it or not. It's not very productive. Be willing to discuss everything, like the things, anyway, everything. Here we go. Creating a plan. Remove what's missing, resources, time. Identify the solution, what's going to work best. You know, and enlist, if you've got support in your family, get them in there. How are we going to get there? You just treat it, you know, if you have that compassionate detachment, you can do it. Get a win-win situation from everybody. Self-care, your psychic protection. Wash your hands, right? Because we go in, like my cousin was dying of AIDS way back, and I went to the nursing station and said, what should I do? Nobody knew about AIDS in those days, and she gave me this horrific idea of contagion. But I went into his room, you know, I'm walking into his room, and the first thing he does, he opens his arms, and I have to go and hug him. And I didn't know what to do. So if your client has a contagious disease, or if you do, be extremely careful with what's going on. Face mask, for example. Quarantine yourself. Don't go to work if you're sick. And know when you've done everything you can, right? That's it. And take a break. If you can get respite care, if you're the caregiver, get some respite care. Don't go with them as they transition. And don't try to hold them back. Release commitments on both sides. We are done. Community care. We need good homes and palliative care. We need adequate rehab facilities. We need more geriatric doctors and specialists. We need more discussion. Great book, Being Mortal, by Atul Gawande. I recommend that book highly. It talks about end of life. Being Mortal. Atul Gawande. Jeannie wants to say something.
Don't want to. But a couple important things, because I get a lot of calls on people who have just died or dying. Is the soul 100% complete?
Good one.
When the person's died, has any part of them left behind? Dowsing question, is it appropriate and best interest that it be 100% complete?
Good one.
If it is, ask spirit help to get it complete, and if the soul has not gone on, if it's most appropriate and best interest, ask a spirit team, move it on when it's the best time.
It doesn't have to be right now.
No, it doesn't. Sometimes they want to hang for a little bit. But so that I don't always have to remember who's hanging and who's not,
right.
I ask the spirit team to do it when it's the right time. I just had a friend, a wonderful woman at our natural grocers who died of an asthma attack in abject pain and died. When something like that happens, I asked if it's most appropriate and best interest to remove the memory of that traumatic death so her next life, that soul won't come back with always wondering why she feels like she's suffocating. All right? So,
squeeze in here a second?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, and to release the cellular memory as well.
And to release the cellular memory.
Thank you. Okay, we're 5 minutes over. Boom, done. So, thank you.